Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission. A brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/Patchwork Heart Ministry today.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's DeSantis.
Hi, welcome to Journeys in Faith. My name is DeSantis. I'm so grateful that you're with us for this hour. And this is my first episode on Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. So once again, welcome and thank you for joining me on this journey in faith. So I have awesome guests with me this evening. I have Mercedarian Friars, Father Matthew Phelan, Father Kenneth Breen, and Father Daniel Bowen. So we have a lot to learn from them. Right now, we're going through this pandemic and we're all on a journey in faith, maybe even in a greater way than we realize right now. So I want to welcome Father Matthew, Father Ken, and Father Daniel. Thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here. Very happy.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And a shout out to those who are producing this TV show, that is Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. And they have a special opportunity, which we'll talk about throughout this show, called Patreon Patchwork Heart Ministry. I would invite you to check out online, patreon.com/Patchwork Heart Ministry, to learn about discovering your mission. Discovering our mission is so important right now and in this world at the current time, as we're all searching for greater faith. So if you go to patreon.com/Patchwork Heart Ministry, you can learn about a special opportunity which will really help you to grow in your faith. So once again, I want to thank so much Father Matthew, Father Ken, and Father Daniel for being here. And I was thinking that we could start out with a little bit of a history about the Mercedarian religious order for those who don't know really anything about it. So maybe Father Daniel, you could start us out by telling us a little bit about the Mercedarians.
Well, sure, I'd be happy to do so. Yeah, a lot of people aren't aware of our order, but our order is actually over 800 years old, so it goes back a ways. So just to kind of give a little snapshot, we want to go to the area of Spain in the, we'll say, late 12th century, early 13th century. At that time, there's a great dispute sort of between the world of Christianity and the world of Islam. And so there's a lot of fighting going back and forth either which way, and in the midst of this situation often, besides the casualties of war, many times people would be actually taken captive and held for ransom in order to raise funds to get monies and to continue the war machine alive. So this was a very present reality at the time of when our founder was born and lived. So our founder is St. Peter Nolasco. He was born around the year 1180, and it's believed that he was born in southern France. and that he was born of a noble class family and got into the work of being a merchant. So he spoke several languages, was able to work the trade routes in the Mediterranean at that time. At some point, his parents passed, and he inherited their wealth. And what Peter saw in his midst was in the midst of this conquest between the two different worlds, the two different religions, two different outlooks. He would see these slave ships, particularly of the captive Christians, that were being brought in by the Muslim oppressors, and they'd be bought and sold like a commodity. And again, we're talking in chains, them being beat, whipped, not obviously their human dignity being respected in any way, shape, or form. And so this really upset him, as it should anybody, any person, so he tried to do what he could do in a sense of wanting to, what can I do about this situation? When anytime we see some kind of an injustice in our midst, we can go one of two ways, right? We can either recognize it as it is what it is, and then try to work towards doing something about it, either, calling it out and looking to change things, or we could, bury our head in the sand or turn away, But for Christians that are believers and that understand the importance that all human beings made in the image of God are to be protected and respected, we really don't have that second option of turning away. So Peter decided to make a pilgrimage to Montserrat. Montserrat is sort of, I guess we could say, comparable. It's a Benedictine monastery up in northwestern Spain, and it probably existed by the time of his birth for a few hundred years. And it sort of would be equivalent to what we would think of in Mexico, the Shrine of Guadalupe, where the image of the Blessed Mother is. People go there on pilgrimage to be enlightened, to be inspired. This is what people would do by going to Montserrat. And Montserrat is, of course, on that way of the Compostela that many people will take to journey, ending in Valencia. But any which case, so he went there to go and pray about the situation. And so then at that point, in a moment of prayer in the evening of August 1st into the morning of August 2nd, praying there at Montserrat, the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to him. Now we know Our Lady tends to do this for people. We can think of Bernadette for Our Lady of Lourdes. We can think of the three shepherd children of Our Lady of Fatima. It's very much in her purview to come and reach out to humanity in such a way. And so she came to him and said, my son has heard your prayers, in essence, and sent me to you in order to encourage and inspire and support you in beginning a new religious order that will look to set the captives free, to keep these Christians from possibly losing their faith or surrendering it, or being treated in this less than human way. So after this experience that he had at Montserrat, he traveled back to Barcelona, and he discussed what he had experienced, both with the Bishop of Barcelona, Bishop Paulo de Berenguer de Paulo, and then also brought this up to the king, James I of Aragon, and they both said, we believe you, absolutely. So on August 10th, again, this vision was August 1st, August 2nd, August 10th of 1218, Peter Nolasco and a couple others of good friends of his that, that he had, shared his heart with on this, went to the Cathedral of Barcelona, La Cruz, and there, before the bishop and the king, was started the Order of the Blessed Virgin Mary of Mercy for the Redemption of Captives. And the work, again, would be to gather alms, to go to these captors, to buy the Christian slaves, and then return them to their families, set them free. Now, we weren't the only order doing this kind of work. There were other groups doing this. What was unique about our order, besides just Peter's great gift of being able to negotiate and organize these ransom missions, was its particular Marian charism, its real focus on Mary, the Blessed Mother, the Mother of Jesus, and really counting upon her intercession to help in this work. But Peter also insisted upon that those that be joining this community would also be not only taking a religious vow of poverty, chastity, and obedience, but a fourth vow, or a vow that we call a redemptive vow or a blood vow. And this vow would be to be able to do, in the sense of what Christ does for all of us, to be willing to lay down our life for our brothers and sisters in Christ, lay down our life for our friends. And it would come about in this situation. For instance, let's say a redemptive event was planned. They arrived with $50, or I'm just using a sense, for 50 slaves. And in the time of your 2-week journey to Tunis or Algiers or wherever you're going, now they have 60 captives. Which 10 are you going to leave behind? Whose uncle? Whose son? Who are you going to leave behind in this situation? The answer is none of them. Here's the $50 for the 50 slaves, plus I, Father Daniel, will use myself as collateral and exchange and take up a hostage situation, take the place of these 10 slaves. And Father Ken will come back in a month with $30 to free me. So we've got the situation where we're willing to literally use ourselves as the ransom to be paid for the captives so that they could have their freedom. And that's a vow that we order. It continues to take down to our present day. So this work of redeeming captives, setting them free, assisting them, helping them, gathering the alms, it was work that was very much a part of our order, obviously, through those years. Then, of course, the New World came to be discovered by Christopher Columbus in 1493. And in that moment, Mercedarian Friars journeyed with Christopher Columbus into the New World. Mm-hmm. And again, our order always being very close to Spain and the Spanish realm, we were some of the first ones to go there. And again, our work there, obviously there is not Islam in the New World, but we were there to make sure the conquistadores did things properly. Are they treating these native people with due respect? You know, to teach them the faith, right? That it'd be an invitation to know our Lord and to not be abused. So that's very much the work that we did in the New World, and we were did very well in that. And so many of these countries in the New World, Peru, Dominican Republic, these are places that we've been at for hundreds of years. And so really, you kind of had the height of Mercedarianism maybe in the 1600s, somewhere in that, where we had literally thousands of Mercedarian friars. We had our contemplative nuns and sisters that would pray for the redemptive missions and lay faithful involved in these different works. Yes, the redeeming of the captive slaves, but also in educating, you know, in catechizing in the faith, making sure human dignity is protected and respected. Well, then along came the French Revolution, the Enlightenment, right? The kind of the movement of secular humanism pushing against the faith in the church. And of course, the church overall, in many ways, there was a great adjustment to be made. Let's say that, to be kind, I guess, right? Obviously, many religious were put to death. You know, we had the Reformation, these different situations. So the Mercedarians suffered greatly in the hands of that. And then, of course, even with our alignment with being with Spain, you know, when Spain was kind of the big player in the world, we were kind of up there with them. But when that kind of diminishment occurred, again, our being closely allied with the king and the royal house, our diminishment also is there. So much so to the point that in the 1800s, literally we were maybe a couple hundred friars. That was it. So a huge decrease to the point we weren't even sure if we could do it. Again, with these revolutions, we weren't able to even meet to have our chapters to elect generals. So Rome would have to assist in this. And until we actually had a very beautiful friar that was elected Master General from Chile, Valenzuela, who would go on and help reform and kind of bring us back to life in a sense. And so we were able to reestablish houses and keep going forward and make the movement. Now our order is, again, mostly known because, again, being in the Spanish-speaking world, That's who knows us. You know, if you know someone whose name is Mercedes, right? It's really kind of a name that's based on Merced, which is that root word of mercy, right? More of a proper translation would probably be ransom, but mercy will work. Now, our friars had never really been in the United States in any significant way until the 20th century. And it was all by God's divine providence that this occurred. Two of our friars from our Italian province, Father Alfredo Scotti and Father Martin Campagno, were sent to journey to Mexico to help and assist the friars there. Well, Mexico had a giant revolution, the Cristeros Wars. That was a pretty decent movie that came out about 8 years ago for Greater Glory that kind of gives you a snapshot of that. Many people may not be aware of that historical moment. But in that moment, basically all foreign priests were told, get out, or that's it. So Father Alfredo actually stayed back in Mexico. He had actually was ordained at the shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe, and he was, I guess, pretty good at passing himself off as a native. Father Martin fled up to the United States of America and was in the refugee camps that were located on the border. And so he came to this land, and at the moment, in American history, the great immigration group that was really coming to the States in large numbers were Italians. A lot of them fleeing famine, especially in the southern parts of Italy. And so I would say that probably started around 1870, but it was still very much going on in the teens and the 1920s. And unfortunately, sometimes our culture forgets, even though we're really a country of immigrants, you know, the new immigrant seems to not always get treated the best. And in this case, Italian Americans were often be taken advantage of, made fun of, not given jobs, all these types of situations. And so Father Martin saw this and said, you know, well, maybe I could help them in this captivity of being in a foreign land that, you know, does not always protect them or respect them, and to keep them from possibly being taken advantage of by people that are not always have their best interests in mind. So after attempts to look in different places, the Bishop of Cleveland, Archbishop Joseph Schrems, extended the invitation for the Mercedarian Friars to come to that diocese to begin working with the Italian immigrants. And we started in St. Anthony's Parish in Youngstown, and soon we're brought over to St. Rocco's in Cleveland. St. Rocco's in Mount Carmel, we're still at even to this very day to help these people build their parish, to be protected and respected. I think we've done pretty well. As I've said often before, everybody seems to like spaghetti, pasta, and Frank Sinatra. So no problems, right? So the captivity of the Italian American, now no one would ever think twice about, you know, having them in positions of employment or politics or arts or anything. So again, the Mercedarians, again, 800 years plus. So the idea is, again, anywhere that a Mercedarian finds him or herself, we do have sisters as well, is to realize what is the captivity that is here, and what can we do to set them free from this, you know, accompanying them, journeying with them, being with them, and helping them out of that situation. So it allows for a lot of different possibilities. Here in the U.S., again, helping in parishes has been in keeping the faith alive and protected. Has been a big part of it. So it allows for all kinds of things. Prison ministry, yes. Hospital chaplaincies, yes. Human trafficking, yes. Addictions of different sorts, pornography, people that have, come into the unfortunate circumstance of a divorce or separation, again, people that are still human beings that need to be protected and respected, not ignored or put aside. And so the Mercedarian is always one who's not afraid to kind of, in a sense, run into the fire, and that's when we're being our best, when we run to the fire, run to the captive in order to set them free. And sometimes it can mean we're controversial, right? You could say in the old days, oh, you're giving money to the Muslims. That's you're giving money to the enemy. Okay, well, maybe not, but what are we doing here? What's it ultimately about? Is everything about money, or is it about that soul, saving that soul, right? So in the same way today, again, following in the footsteps of our Lord, and supported and protected by Our Lady and all of our many great saints that we have had across the ages, both those canonized and recognized by the church and those that we know from our tradition. We continue doing that great work to this day and are looking forward to doing it for as long as our Lord would have us do it.
I appreciate that. And I know that everyone watching and listening to the history of the Mercedarian religious order is just grateful to you and also all the Mercedarians. Father, I would also ask you, maybe you can tell people who are watching where the Mercedarians are located in the United States. And I also want to mention one more thing is please check out their website at orderofmercy.org because you want to learn more about the Mercedarians. So Father, maybe you can tell them where you're located.
Yes. So of course, our first foundation was in Cleveland, Ohio, and we still are in Cleveland, Ohio today. Our friars are in 2 parishes, and we do have our sisters, the Mercedarian Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, actually at the convent and school right across the parking lot at Our Lady of Mount Carmel on the west side of Cleveland, Detroit Avenue, and then St. Rocco's, which is about a 10 or 15-minute drive from here, really kind of our mother church for the order on Fulton Road. And then in the 1940s, we were invited by the Bishop of Buffalo, New York, to come out there. So we did make that move to the Diocese of Buffalo, staying in a small little town called Leroy. Not Leroy, it's Leroy.
Leroy.
To our Leroy friends, hello.
Yeah, so it's a blessing. Beautiful little town. Actually physically closer to Rochester, New York, than downtown Buffalo, but still within that area. And so we've been there many years. And oddly enough, as it would, there was an Italian population there, so we were able to assist them. And now we continue to assist the peoples there at Our Lady of Mercy Parish in Leroy, New York, and St. Bridget's in Bergen, New York. And then in the late 70s, there was another possibility for us to make a movement into Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And so Archbishop Kroll invited us to come out to Philadelphia, and we began to set up a formation house. So most all of our men here in the United States studied at St. Charles Borromeo Seminary there on Wynwood. And we then also later, now it's been, how long has it been now? 2004 or 5, began to minister at Our Lady of Lourdes Parish in Overbrook Farms. Very, very beautiful neighborhood, very historic, and right on the main line. You can't miss it, right? So thankful. And then in the mid 80s, there was an invitation extended for us to come down to Florida. And so, yes, we came down to St. Petersburg, Tampa, that diocese there. We have a house there, and we've been involved in prison ministry there, involved with assisting at nursing homes and some of the local colleges, and of course the parishes and the cathedral there. And then just about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we were invited by the Bishop of the Diocese of St. Augustine to come up and to begin ministering there, primarily to minister to the prisons. The bishop there was born and raised in Cuba. And so from Cuba, he knew the Mercedarians, and he knew that we would often do, right, this work of freeing captives, including the prison work. So invited us to come there to minister primarily the main prison at Stark Correctional Facility, which is a prison that has death row. So we are presently there ministering at that prison along with others in that area, and a couple small parishes in Stark and McClenny. So very happy to be there. And that's where we're located here in the United States presently. We do have some sister communities in some different places, Third Order, which is our lay or faithful Mercedarians. And that's another aspect to just mention briefly also. You know, our order founder, St. Peter Nolasco, was not a priest or a cleric, okay? He was a brother, right? And so right even from the get-go, in the beginning of this order, there's always been this involvement of, yes, some consecrated brothers and sisters, but also lay faithful, you know, and the giving of their alms and their assistance have always been part and parcel of our work. They've always journeyed with us in this work, in this movement, and that goes on down to this present day. We are at our best when our brothers and sisters, whether they have taken vows of the religious state or vows in matrimony or whatnot, that is always when we are our fullest and best expression of our charism of redemption.
I appreciate you sharing that with everyone. Quite a history. There's so much to learn. So once again, I invite people to go to orderofmercy.org and learn about the Mercedarians, and they're friends of mine. I will also mention that I'm the director of an outreach through the Mercedarians. It's called the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation. And this foundation, we help families in crisis. So we'll talk more about that later, but our initial mission has been to help families that are affected by divorce. So if you know someone who is affected by divorce or separation, you can go on our website and look at nonatus.org and learn more about our mission. It's spelled NONNATUS.org. And Father Ken Breen, hi, Father Ken. He's our spiritual moderator for the foundation. Now, we do have to take a break in just about 3 or 4 minutes, and we will come back. We're going to learn about the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation. We're going to learn about Our Lady of Mercy and St. Bridget's parishes in Leroy, New York. The two priests that are there, Father Matthew Phelan and also Father Ken Breen, are going to tell us about some of the great work that they're doing up there in Western New York. But I also want to inform all of you about something very special that's offered through Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. As I mentioned at the beginning of the program, it's called Patreon, and it's Discover Your Mission. All of us want to discover what is our mission. And this is really a special invitation to you and your family to join every single month to listen to awesome Catholic presenters. And if you go to patreon.com/patchworkheart, you can learn more about that. So I know that when we take this break, you're going to see a nice commercial that will explain that. So we will see you in just maybe about 3 or 4 minutes after our commercial break. We'll see you in a few.
Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission. A brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry today.
We'll go right to St. Bridget's and Our Lady of Mercy and talk about how you all have dealt with the pandemic with your masses, streaming the masses, and how you've made the great outreach that you have on online. But first, we'll go to the foundation. Well, the St. Raymond Nonatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith is an expression and an application from the Mercedarian religious order. And what we do is outreach to families in crisis, and our initial mission is to families and individuals affected by divorce and separation. We're doing special outreach right now online. What we're doing is we are having these monthly online support groups for individuals who are affected by divorce and separation. The divorce group is on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then we have another group at the end of the month, the last Thursday of each month, and that's at 8 o'clock at night, Eastern Standard Time, for adult children of divorce. The focus of those groups are prayer, reflection, sharing in a safe place, and also attended by a Mercedarian Friar and myself, and guided by the teachings of the Church. Hello, welcome back to Journeys in Faith. My name is Ann DeSantis, and I'm so blessed to be here with the Mercedarian Friars and Father Daniel Bowen for the first half hour, explain the history of the Mercedarians from their beginning and also even the history in the United States. So I thank Father Daniel Bowen. He's out there in Cleveland, Ohio, for giving us that wonderful history about the Mercedarian religious order. So, right now, I thought we could spend a little bit of time talking about a ministry that I'm actually involved with myself. It's called the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. It's an outreach through the Mercedarians, and you can learn about us at knonatus.org. I had explained that before the commercial break. And what we do is we help families in crisis. And Father Daniel explained the fourth vow of the Mercedarians, which is the willingness to give our lives for those who are in danger of losing their faith. Sometimes people who are in danger of losing their faith are those who are affected by divorce and separation. So, what we've been doing since our founding in 2015 is doing these special support groups that help those families. And the spiritual moderator for the foundation, his name is Father Ken Breen, and he's with us this evening here on this TV show. And I thought maybe Father Ken, you could tell us a little bit about the work that you and I have been doing as a foundation with these support groups and how we have helped the families affected by divorce.
Sure. Thanks very much, Ann. It's really nice to be able to be here and talk about this work. As Father Daniel was explaining so well in our history, St. Peter Nolasco saw this great need to free the captives, otherwise they may deny their faith, or they give up their faith. And as you explained already, the captives that we encounter today are so many different forms. Even as Father Dan expressed, there's so many different ways that that's happening. But we've discerned over the years, recognizing that in our American society, the faith is in danger in a particular way because of the lack of stability in the family life. And the most serious form, obviously, is where there's separation, divorce. So we discerned that, and also St. Raymond Nonnatus, the important thing to recognize about St. Raymond Nonnatus is that he's the patron of Christian family life. Even here in our parish, we pray regularly this prayer that was composed, and it helps us recognize that, the way where the family goes, the faith is, if it's a good family, then there'll be a good support for the faith. If there's not a good family life, then it threatens the integrity of faith. So seeing this need to assist people who are struggling, especially where there's separation and divorce, we've did various things. Actually, the first expressions that we tried to do were actually healing services in connection with the good work of Rose Sweet. We collaborated with her experience. As you saw that one picture there, a group of us, that was like our first experience of being there for people. It was during the Year of Mercy. And then we did another one the following year. And now we are extending that work through doing these online supports. So we're available, the first Tuesday of the month. And for those who are in the situation of separation and divorce. And we had just recently, we were assisting and being present to and accompanying someone who's right in the midst of that, in the midst of separation. And it's a terribly painful experience. So by being present to them, we are present like we were in the very beginning when there were the captives, they were in the dungeon. So we would go there, we'd be present to them and accompany them in the hopes of together being set free. So this is the fundamental aspect we're trying to be there for. And also, as you could probably express, Anne, better than any, that your own personal experience too is being a child that has experienced divorce and how that affects you. And there's that work out there, it's called Primal Loss. If you ever have a chance to read that, you can read and see how how when there's divorce in the family, how it affects the children so traumatically. So all these are ways in which we are trying to express. As we first encountered the call to be Mercedarians here in the United States was for those who are immigrants, the Italian immigrants who were at risk of giving up their faith. I'm from Cleveland. I grew up there, and we'd hear the stories like when the Italians were there, and if they wanted to go to church at the church that was run by the Irish or by the Germans, they say, get out of here, so they would be at risk of giving up their faith. So this is why we were called to be there in Cleveland. Now that everyone's enjoying pasta, we need to see how we can assist, in another ways. So, this is how the Spirit is leading us, to really be a ministry to, very seriously. And this can expand, by God's grace in different aspects, as Father Dan mentioned. And I want to just mention, too, that he's also our vocation director. So, from the beginning, I can say honestly, what drew me to our order was that simple saying, no greater love. There's no greater love than to give your life as Christ gave his life for us. So I know that from the beginning, that's why I'm a Mercedarian today. And we want to encourage young people. We're looking for love. The greatest love is to give your life, and we want to, encourage people who are watching this to consider that. Ultimately, we know that the vocation Christ is giving us is what he himself showed, the greatest love in giving his own life. And that authentic human love is in giving ourselves to God and one another in authentic Christian charity and growth in virtue. So, just a final note about Saint Raymond Nonatus. His name, Nonatus, is not born. So because he had a miraculous birth. His mother was dying, and I believe she died. Mm-hmm. And so there was a count there who, I think it was a Muslim count, and this count knew that it's possible to see if the child was there. So he was able to do, at that time, we call it today a cesarean section. So he was able to give birth to St. Raymond. And he also was a redeemer, and he experienced, when he would proclaim about Christ, and many of the Muslims were interested. Well, the slave masters, the ones who were running the business, they didn't take too kindly to the Raymond Nonatus bringing them to faith. So what they do, they locked his lips. So even today, trying to live our faith, or a good family trying to live our faith, or a good father, he's in the workplace and he wants to live his faith. Sometimes it can be quite a challenge today. You have to kind of like travel a political platform or whatever, and be careful. But we need to also still be courageous in the midst of the situations we're facing today. But at the same time, we're here to ultimately accompany everyone, and in particular those who are at most risk of giving up their faith. And I had the opportunity in the prison ministry, and I very much, I'm very happy that we can see an expression of that, and also their families too, that are the families of the inmates, they're at risk too, because, their, father of the family, if you did something wrong, okay, that's something that has to be dealt with, but it shouldn't make it so that the family gives up the faith. So we hope someday something can be developed there, in the long run too. And we have a lot of different ways. We have the Third Order that is collaborating with us, and of course, Anne, you're also a Third Order member, and also Rose Sweet is. So we have this collaboration too, and that's very important, as Dan mentioned. that not only Peter Nolasco was a brother, but we had many brothers and many lay that have been collaborating with us all through these years to bring assistance to captives.
Thank you so much for sharing about both your the religious order and also the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation, and also all that you just shared with us about accompaniment and what the Mercedarians have done to do that. So I'm so grateful to you. And I know people who are watching, I just remind you again to please check out the website for the St. Raymond Nonnatus Foundation at nonatus.org. Now, Father Matthew, I thought on the topic of accompaniment, we're in the middle of this pandemic where your church, particularly St. Bridget's and of course, Our Lady of Mercy in Leroy, New York, has done such a great job of streaming those masses every single day with daily mass and also, of course, several masses on Sunday. I wondered, because you're such an expert, I'll say, at doing this, what has that experience been like? Because I do think that your church in particular has done such a great job with making outreach to your parishioners and those in the community.
Before I get to that, I'm just going to take 1 minute just to tie in something from the history, and then Father Care with the St. Raymond Foundation.
Yeah.
Because here in Leroy, St. Raymond was well known because originally the house that we had here was the first house was called St. Raymond Seminary, and then it became the novitiate. So the novitiate for years, when it was in Leroy, was under the patronage of St. Raymond Nonnatus, and there was a great devotion promoted here in the village. And it wasn't until 1999 that the Mercedarians then began parish ministry here in the village. At that time, there were 2 parishes in the village of Leroy, St. Joseph's and St. Peter's, and then about 5 miles down the road, there was St. Anthony's at a little bird called Lime Rock. So we had those. So the first Mercedarian pastor was the pastor of St. Peter's, Father Michael Rock, became the pastor in 1999 of St. Peter's, and then St. Anthony's in Lime Rock. But then there was another church just across the street and maybe about 200 yards down, St. Joseph's. And then those parishes eventually were merged, and Father Michael Rock was the pastor when they were all when St. Joseph's, St. Anthony's, and St. Peter's were merged into, and then given a new name called Our Lady of Mercy. And then they were later on partnered with St. Bridget, which is 12 miles up the road on New York Highway 19, just off of 19 in Virgin, New York. And so it's a partnered parish. We have 1 staff, but 2 distinct parishes. And I think after Father Michael Rocky and Father Michael Donovan, both my predecessors just did a wonderful job here of really preserving the faith and teaching and everything. But as Father Ken and I came here in 2018, we also saw, there's a need now to begin to adapt for the future, because the way people communicate is changing rapidly and has changed. The way people give is changing and changing rapidly. And so we were already beginning to look at ways to kind of transition quickly into this period of history. Little did we know it would be sprung upon us so quickly with getting locked down and the stay at home and everything. So, fortunately we had some things in place. And when we had to then get into streaming the masses and everything, we quickly had to decide. And I have 2 pastoral councils, one at St. Bridget and one here at Our Lady of Mercy. We had to have emergency meetings online and figure out, how we would do this. And with the 2 parishes, we decided the best way to do it would be to, since we had the equipment that we needed, we had the cameras and everything, we would do streaming from the house chapel, because that was a place that we could get the most stable stream. And also I was able to purchase a program so we could simultaneously stream on Facebook, but a lot of our people don't have Facebook and really don't like Facebook, so we had to do it on YouTube also. Now, we probably can reach about 70% of our parish that way, but there's still, an older generation, about 30%, that don't have access either way. So that's still a challenge of just traditionally phone calls and getting our parishioners to reach out. And that's a little bit more difficult. But we were able to transition. And again, when we talked about it, we thought it was really important for us, since all of the mass intentions that we had scheduled have to be said. We thought it would be best, let's try to preserve as best as possible the actual mass schedule that we do. So if the daily mass at Our Lady of Mercy is 7:30, we're doing mass and streaming it every day at 7:30. We have 2 masses at St. Bridget at 8:30, at Tuesday 3rd. We're going to do those masses at that time. Sunday masses will be all. So the only with Sunday masses, we do have a 5:30 in the afternoon on Sunday when things are going well. That's the one mass that we don't live stream. We have one other retired diocesan priest who takes one of the intentions for us. So he celebrates that privately, but we announce that intention in the morning and encourage our people then to replay that mass in the morning where we do mention that intention. And so it's been kind of the challenge to try to keep life going at the same times that they normally do. So to keep that rhythm, so when we come back, at least there'll be somewhat of that rhythm continuing.
And there was also the St. Bridget prayer.
The St. Bridget prayer that we do
done at all the masses.
All the masses, we adapted that.
Like doing something together for both parishes.
That's correct. Yes.
I would encourage people who are watching,
Mhm.
You want to connect on Facebook and also on YouTube with Our Lady of Mercy and St. Bridget's parishes. Now the N is the ampersand. So if
Yeah.
you go on Facebook, it's Our Lady of Mercy.
So
and
the web
St.
address
Bridget.
is just Our Lady of Mercy Leroy, as Father Daniel correctly pronounced it. But if you're thinking of spelling, just think Leroy, but it is Leroy. But Our Lady of Mercy Leroy.org. That's the website, and then you'll see that, and you can see it on the screen. There's a link to the Facebook and YouTube pages. At the top, there's that red question mark, and if you click on there, that's my little COVID page. Right, whenever we haven't had any updates from the diocese in a while, but when they do come in, I paste those up there, and you can scroll down, and there's links. If you're really bored and you want to binge watch, you can binge watch like all of our masses going back to, in the Lent into the lockdown. So we have all of those that are linked. I mean, eventually I'm sure we'll start to, take those off of the YouTube, but they're all there right now. You got the links, and you can click onto those, and you can watch, watch all of those. So it's been interesting. We've done it pretty well. I was heartbroken the other day on the feast day of our founder. I bumped one little button and my mass went out without audio. And as I joke with the parishioners, if we forget to turn on the microphone in the church, you just got to talk a little bit louder or send somebody back. You forget to turn the microphone on online. There's nothing that we can do. I can't shout loud enough for them to hear mass 8 miles up the road. So,
Well, I commend you both, and all the Mercedarians for doing such a great job with streaming these masses. We have Our Lady of Lourdes in Philadelphia. We have Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Cleveland. We have St. Rocco's in Cleveland, and we have the parishes down there in St. Petersburg, Florida. The Mercedarians.
Father Michael Donovan down at St. Edwards and Stark. He's been doing great. He does like a whole reflection every day. He's been doing that, and that's really inspiring. He's really good with scripture and just gives a beautiful meditation each day, which has been wonderful. Also, I think he does that on Facebook. I don't know if is it Father Danny? I think Facebook that Father Michael Donovan puts in reflections. Yeah,
I believe it's on Facebook, and then for there's really a very unique opportunity that has been presented itself in that. We are often live streaming from our house of studies in Philadelphia.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Down the road from the parish at the Monastery of Our Lady of Mercy is often giving actually some insight into our formation house, something very rare without you're going there to visit as a discerner. So you'll actually have an opportunity to kind of often pray with our 3 postulants, our 1 student brother, and get a sense of that place as well. So I think they're usually live streaming those on our Facebook page, Mercedarian Friars USA. If you go there, you can look and see. And So it's really a great opportunity. Of course, I do want to put a little plug in for vocations, for at least for the friars. I mean, of course, we need all the vocations, third order, we need sisters, we need nuns, we need but particularly, I'm given the charge of promoting, encouraging, and supporting young men that, are aged 18 to 35. If God is not been married, right, or have some kind of commitment in that way, but you're thinking that God may be actually calling for you to serve in a particular way that's a little more intimate with the church and prayer. Maybe God is calling you to consider being a Mercedarian friar. In our community, we have both. We have priests and we have the brothers. Of course, we are all equal in brothership in the sense of taking the 4 vows, and again, of course, that 4th vow of willing to lay down our lives. But a great opportunity. We work in so many different areas and realms, so in education or prison ministry, the parish setting, just there's so many different possibilities out there. I'd really encourage men that are in that age group, 18 to 35, to maybe stop by our website, take a look and see. Again, that's orderofmercy.org. And there's a vocation tab that you can look there. There's some vocation stories. Or you might take a look at our YouTube page, Mercedarian Friars USA, where we've placed a number of our friars. Actually, we have little videos, them giving their vocation story. We've also posted some videos of some of the friars that have actually been part of our community, have gone on to our Lord. So you can get to hear some of their stories as well. A lot of content there. Try to, have people get a sense of being able to meet us virtually, since, we're only in a few places here in the States. So it can allow for a lot more interaction for folks to get a sense of who we are and hopefully, again, reach out to us. So again, men, I would encourage you, if you've been thinking about a vocation of the priesthood or religious life, maybe take a look at what our community is about, and feel free to contact me, Father Daniel Bowen. Contact information is all right there at the website.
Yeah, Father Daniel, thank you. I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about vocations. I think it's so important. And I commend you in the wonderful work that you're doing, because personally, I love the Mercedarian religious order, and the Lord brought me to all of you. And I'm just so grateful, because honestly, if it weren't for all of you as wonderful spiritual directors and priests that I know personally, I really wouldn't be here on this wonderful opportunity here on Journeys in Faith on Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Radio. So as we're coming close to the end of the show, I wondered if the 3 of you would have any words of encouragement for those right now who are maybe struggling during this time.
I mean, specifically this time of this challenge that we're having with the
Yes.
pandemic. Yeah, I first of all, I would say that everything God permits everything to happen for a reason. And so sometimes when we're in the midst of something, we don't know yet what that reason would be. And I think, Anne, you would know that in your own journey of faith, that you've gone through places where you didn't know, God, why are you permitting this? And he permitted it to bring you here today and to bring us here today. And so for all of us communally, God is permitting this for a reason, and God is going to bring something good and exciting out of it. Now, individually, there's, so many different stories and cases and situations. Some situations, some people that are thriving in this, and some people it's terrible. And I mean, I know people who, probably, I don't know. I mean, to me, I would guess, and just from some of the people that I know, it's probably most difficult for those who live alone, because we are social beings. We are made to be in communion with others. And so, for those that maybe live alone, I heard somebody say at the beginning of this, let's not use the phrase social distancing. Let's use the phrase physical distancing, because we can be socially close, but physically apart. Mm-hmm. And, You know, we're only a phone call away. We're only social media away. We can be together, even if we're physically apart. And so, you know, if
I want to add to that some of the ways that we can be closer is through we've seen explosion like Zoom. We're using Zoom right now, and it's funny how sometimes for the catechism, you know, they transition to Zoom, and you know, some kids are watching Zoom and they're eating potato chips or whatever, you know. So they wouldn't normally be doing that, you know, in the catechism class, but they might be more interested. So I mean, as on the one hand, you know, there's this challenge that we're facing. It can be an opportunity if people are careful to look and dive into good content like this one, you know, and all the positive Formed, you know, we're constantly promoting Formed, and I'm sure you could tell that we're in the same house, you know. Dan's in another, you know, in Cleveland, and the two of us are in the same house here. But the point that we're trying to make is that, like, one of the things that we did as a community together that we might not have done was we were interested in seeing the program Chosen. The Chosen, you know, it's like, you know, we usually watch other stuff, but all of a sudden, you know, we're watching together this life of Jesus that's being presented, you know, and it's really good. It's been deepening us spiritually too. So this is our opportunity to choose what's positive and what's healthy, and also been able to show to my parents or give them reference. You know, VidAngel was giving the opportunity to see in these days The Ride and the Dance, a beautiful video about nature, and its biologist was a Christian, explaining these you know, fantastic things about our world that God is making. So we enjoyed sharing that together. And my parents are in Cleveland, so you know, this is something that we might not have done, you know, if it wasn't for this situation. So yeah, we see the pain that's there because you know, physically being distant, but now it's also possible to have some different ways of being connected socially, and we should take advantage of that. But of course, there's the problem of dangers there, you know, and that's one thing we can't emphasize enough, that, you know, parents and families, that's why we're so invested in families, is that parents have to really step up and being good parents with their children and encouraging them to access what is positive and upbuilding content, because otherwise, you know, you're just opening the floodgates to more disaster, and we don't want, you know, no, who wants that? We're just happy to be there to encourage what is positive and what is good. And you can see a lot of those references, you know, like Form, for example, that's in our helpful resources on our webpage, you know. I mean, there's all kinds of helpful things that are there that are designed. Protecting young minds, I'm just going to mention that, you know, that's very important for parents to access that. It gives them confidence to work in these areas.
Fiat ministry, Patchwork Heart Ministry. You know,
Yeah. Exactly. Now, I'm so sad. I say this when I end shows all the time, but it's always sad when we have to end. So not only will we do a part 1 for the Mercedarian Friars, we'll do a part 2, part 3, part 4. So please come back to Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis. I invite you to like that page on Facebook. Remember, it's Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis. And also, please subscribe to Fiat Ministry Network, Patchwork Heart Ministry. And like I said, I have that great invitation for all of you for Patreon. Discover your mission. And there's going to be a nice commercial right after this to learn more about that mission. Now, I also have an invitation for you. It's called 5 Minutes in Faith. And you can learn about that at patreon.com/patchworkheartministry, where the Mercedarian Friars and I will give you some keys in dealing with this pandemic right now. We're going to give you 1 or 2 ways to grow in your faith during this time. So please When you get a chance, I want you to go to patreon.com/Patchwork Heart Ministry. And I have one more invitation for you. Actually, well, I'll say two more, is to please subscribe to or check out the podcast for Sowing Hope podcast with myself and my great co-host and friend, Bill Snyder. Now, Sowing is spelled SEWING, Hope podcast. We do a live podcast every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Eastern time and 6 p.m. on Thursdays Eastern time for 1 hour. We have awesome guests. So even if you know somebody who you think would be a great guest, you can email me at sowinghope@patchworkheartministry.org. Okay, so please do that. And you can subscribe to my own website at andesantis.com. You can join the website there, and you'll also get notifications for this show for Journeys in Faith with Ann DeSantis. So we're going to meet every single Friday, 8:30 to 9:30 Eastern time. I thank greatly Father Matthew, Father Ken, and Father Daniel for joining me on this show. And please, I would ask you all to come back again.
Sure.
Thank you. So anyway, we
Patchwork Heart Ministry and Fiat Ministry Network invite you to discover your mission. A brand new in-depth monthly video series featuring engaging Catholic speakers who will challenge you to live your life abundantly. For only $25 a month, you will receive a personal monthly mission, including 3 full-length inspirational talks that build upon a new theme each month. Sign up for the Discover Your Mission tier at patreon.com/Patchwork Heart Ministry today.